doing today. This is my, I don't know what number of foraged florals I've done for with the Booten Homes Library, but it's something that I really love and I think it's a ton of fun. First of all, did your bouquets stay live overnight? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Good, I'm so glad to hear it. That's always a little worrisome. And you put them in water right away when you came home?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm so glad to hear that. So today we're just going to do a little bit of everything today. It's a time of year when florals, there's not a whole lot going on, but there's always something. And one of the things that I like to do when I do these bouquets is that I like to use a lot of different plant materials, and it doesn't always have to be flowers. I think we sort of are, we're almost sort of slaves to the idea that it has to be very floral, but I think, you know, a lot of texture with leaves and other stuff really can make a bouquet very interesting. So the first thing I just wanted to show you is this little fellow right here. This is an excellent little booklet that really sort of talks about floral designs and elements of floral design. I have to tell you, it has won me several prizes. So there you go. So if you decide that you want to sort of get inspired to do different kinds of bouquets, this is a really great little booklet. I've used it for many years and love it. So let's see. So I think for the first, Ali, would you focus on my hands, please? Spotlight my hands. So I think the first thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about what we have today. So you can see, let's see. So one of the things I love about the seasons is that each season really has a palette, a color palette. So this time of year, it's the beautiful purples. Let's see, can you see? There you go. I don't look purple at all. Am my hands spotlighted? I guess they are. So these are called creeping phlox, and they are all over the place right now, at least in my garden. They also come, so it's the sort of very much the very light palettes right now at this time of year. When we get a little bit later in the season, the colors become much more vibrant, the oranges and the reds and the very bright yellows. But this time of year, you know, you're looking at purple, and you know, the good old lilac right now is doing beautifully. And then we have a lot of whites coming out right now. There's the white version of the creeping phlox. One of the things about this time of year too is that the flowers tend to be kind of small. This is a time of year that's really important for the pollinators, for the bumblebees and for the native bees and also for the honeybees. And these pollinators really don't like big flowers at all. They like really small stuff like this, where there's like a landing pad and it's easy to see where they're going to get their nectar. So that's really one of the things to think about, is that this time of year is really the super important time for pollinators. This is when they really get most of their stuff. When you get into the summertime, like later in July and August, and that's actually called the dearth in bee speak, where there's really not a lot for the bees. And at that time of year, the flowers tend to get bigger and showier, and it's a different kind of pollinators. That's when the hummingbirds really like to become part of the pollinator season. So anyway, so we're getting back to pollinators are my hobby horse. So these are the white creeping phlox. So you can see we have the white palette here. Then we have this little fellow right here. This is actually a native, it is a native, what's it called? Viburnum. There's tons of viburnums, and this one is a native one. And again, you can see the flowers are really small, and they are very tightly put together so that if you're a pollinator, if you're a bumblebee, you don't have to fly that far. You can just go from little spot to little spot and do your pollination right there. These guys have berries at the end of the season, so they're really very pretty as well. And then we have this one over here. So this is called Deutzia. It's spelled Deutzia. It's not fully out yet, as you can see. It actually sort of has these little, almost like little pom-poms when it's fully out. But I find that it's a great little filler flower for all kinds of good stuff. And then we have so sort of the showy ones of this one is here we have the bleeding hearts. In Denmark, they're actually called, in Danish, they're called lieutenant's hearts for reasons I don't really know. But they are super darling. If you pass the library on Main Street, I have a different kind of bleeding heart, which is a much deeper red. And I actually got that at a plant sale one year. So the bleeding hearts, that's another, it's not the purple and the white so much, but it's still a very delicate color, and the flowers are super delicate. And also I love the foliage. The foliage is absolutely spectacular. And actually later in the year, the foliage would turn this really beautiful bright yellow. It's a great garden plant. If you want any, I have scads of it that I can plant. It's very, very easy to grow. And then I have, let's see, what else do I have? I have, these guys. So we're back in the white palette again. These are Solomon seal, and as you can see, the leaves are beautiful variegated. Variegated is that's a two color. That's what you call it when they're two colors. This one, it's not a native, but I still love it. It's very pretty, and is a great cut flower. Can go all kinds of good things with that one. Then let's see. Now we get to sort of the filler stuff. I didn't have a whole lot of this one. I think you each got one. Sorry, I couldn't give you more. This is a variegated dogwood. And as you can see, the stems are really a very pretty red. And in the winter time, they just stick up and they become much brighter red. So it's a great native, and it's also a native, I might add. Then we have, and here's also some of these I really didn't have a lot of. This one is called a heuchera. They come in all kinds of different colors, and I love the shape of these leaves. I think I added, there's also a deep purple one that's a heuchera as well. And this one, their flowers are not particularly showy or particularly interesting, but so you really plant them for the foliage. One thing I should add with everything that you have today, it's all, foraged in the garden, and none of it was really meant to be cut flowers. So they won't necessarily last as long as hothouse flowers that you get from a store. But while they last, I think they're awfully pretty. And then we have, in terms of another filler, I don't know what this is. I have it in the yard here at the library. It gets yellow flowers later in the year, but I think the foliage is really quite dramatic. This deep maroon color will really show up as a contrast. And then I added some, I think, yes. Here's another one. This one is also from the library yard. This is lamb's ear. This one gets like really deep later in the summer, gets deep red flowers. It's also known as rose campion. I just think it's a great lily. I mean, isn't this cool? This woolly thing going on there. And then I have Okay, this one, I hope you have prettier ones than this one. This is a really interesting leaf. This is called a Mugdenium. Um, and it's not a native, it's a Korean, but I love the foliage, and this one turns bright red in the fall, so it really can it's an all season plant. And then here we have Astilbe leaves. They later in the year they'll get these big feathery flowers. Um, the flowers actually aren't very good for cut flowers. They droop right away. I've never figured out how to fix that, but that's, but the foliage I think is very, very pretty. And then oh yes, then this one here is a Baptisia. It's not fully out yet at all. It gets these bright yellow flowers. It comes in a blue as well. And this one is a native. It's called Screaming Yellow. And it's I just think that the shape of it is really interesting, and it has like some fun things going on with that little snout coming out. So that one's good fun too. And then lastly, this is what I came across in one of the fields next to my house. These are actually mustard plants. And you can see now we're sort of beginning later in the season, we're beginning to go to the yellows again. And if you pass any field right now, you will see them as these big yellow little plants coming up. And I just think it's sort of a nice little statement flower. I think that's what I have for now. One of the things I wanted to show you before we do anything, as you may have noticed, our lilacs did very well overnight. And usually, very often when you when you pick a lilac, you bring them in, put them in water, and then an hour later, they look like somebody, took a torch to them, and then they start drooping, just droop, 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 droop. So here's the trick to have lilacs. If you don't know it, it is a great little trick. So what you do, I need my glasses for this, I'm afraid. So what you do, you have the lilac here. You take all of the foliage off, all of the leaves, you take that off, because if that will actually just suck up the water, that will take more water from the flowers and that will make them droop. And you can see, because they are really, this is there's a lot of flowers here that need water. So what you do in terms of making sure that if you have good clippers, that's great. You cut it like this, and then you want to make a slit all the way up like this. How I made a slit right here, like that, and that will actually prevent the lilac from drooping. It is a great trick. It works. Some people say that you have to pick them early in the morning, and you have to have a bucket of water right there. I don't think you have to go that crazy, but the cutting that little slit will really make a huge difference in terms of keeping them fresh. So, you know what I forgot? I forgot some water for my bouquets. So if you didn't already fill your mason jar with water, now would be a good time. You each have a mason jar in your little bag of tricks. I'm gonna go fill mine with water right now. I'm just gonna fill it to here, not all the way up, but just sort of about three quarters up. All right, I'm back. So what I'm thinking today, you see what I put in your little bag. There was a mason jar. There is a little flower pot and a little. I think you got a styrofoam because that was all I had. And hopefully you can find, there was a little roll of what's it called? This is called floral tape, which is really just very narrow duct tape. Floral tape is your friend, and I will show you how or what I mean. And then I also added these because I thought they were fun. I'll show you what to do with those afterwards. So I'm thinking what we should do right now is to start with our mason jar and just do a fun little lilac bouquet to start with. And then after that, we are going, do you guys know Sean from the Bloomery? He does fabulous stuff. So we're going to be using our earthenware pots to do a little Sean from the Bloomery kind of he likes to do these sort of small, very tight little bouquets. So that's what we're going to do after we have done our what we in Denmark called a Hausfrau bouquet of lilacs, which is like a house mother bouquet. Now when I do a lilac bouquet, what you can do if you want to, you can do just all lilacs, which I think can be very, very pretty and very effective. But I also like to sort of add a little bit of color and texture to a bouquet. So what I'll probably do with this one, I will take my lilacs. If you want to save a lilac for the little tight bouquet, do that. I'm going to take one of these. So I'm going to take a couple of lilacs. And then I think I want to add my bleeding heart. You know what? I'm going to just move this out of the way because it's just being. So I want to add my bleeding heart because I just think that goes really well with the. Let's see, can you see? This is better. So I want my bleeding heart. I want my lilacs. And make it so that you can see better. Is that better? And then I want to use I have another bleeding heart here. And I want to use my Solomon seal. I think that could be very effective. And I might, I think I'm going to just stay with that for now. Maybe I will put a little bit of Jutsia in. So one of the things to know about I love mason jars. They are a fabulous vase because they have that narrow opening on top. One of the things you can do to make it sort of look a little less masony jar is you take the lid off like this and then just screw it right back on again. It sort of looks a little more finished, if you will. Now, in terms of having a bouquet that is a centerpiece, you want to make sure that it's not taller than if you put your elbow on the table, then it's not taller than your fingertips. Otherwise, people will have to go like this and try to look over flowers. So if it's meant to be a centerpiece, just think about, you don't want to make it too tall. So anyway, so we'll start with our lilacs. Make sure that they're nice and conditioned. I'm sorry, I need my glasses for this. Nice and conditioned. Make sure that the slit is there. Now, lilacs too, they really need to be watered every day. They drink a lot of water. That's just the way of the plant. So they really like to have their water changed every day. Okay, so. And the nice thing about mason jars is that they are awfully forgiving in terms of what they're holding the flowers together. An open vase is much more difficult. Also, you want to make sure that there's no foliage in the water whatsoever, because that'll just make the foliage rot. Now, because this is a sort of a very informal bouquet, you want to make sure that all of the plant material that you put in is pretty much the same height. So you don't want something that's like a ton taller than all of the rest. And then you just sort of put it, you know, where you think it's going to look pretty. I'm going to put some Jutsia in, and I'm really just, if you can see, I'm yanking all of the foliage off so that there's nothing that's in the water. And then I want to make sure that it's pretty much the same height as everybody else. So I just measure like this and pop that right in there. Here we go. So now you can see we sort of have a white and lilac theme here. And I kind of like that, but I do think that the bleeding hearts will just make it another statement. Now, bleeding hearts can be a little bit tough because you see this one, the foliage started drooping already, but you can just sort of very gently nip it off like that. And then you have a pretty bleeding hearts plant. And this one too started. And again, you want to make sure that it's kind of the same height. It don't have to be super uniformly the same height, but you want to make sure that they're pretty much the same height. And but so for, you know how I talked about the foliage. So this particular piece, I think, is really, really pretty. I mean, it's a lovely, it's just such a pretty shape of leaf. And so I think I'm just gonna, actually, you know what, I'm gonna save this for my other bouquet. So I'm gonna put that aside just for now. And then again, make sure that they're the same height. There you go. And then I think I might add, let's see, you know what, I think I might add some of the astilbe, because that sort of is a nice contrast with the purple lilac. And again, I'm just going to nip off some of the leaves and save them for later. There you go. Oh, that was actually too short, so we'll just save that one some other time. I think I will use this little fellow here instead, because that's tall enough. There you go. Okay. And if you have, you can actually also, okay, I'm going to put that in as well. There you go. Okay. Now, if you have, I mean, you can make them as full as you want, or as not full as you want. But just make sure that you have some material left over for the next project. Okay, I think one of the things that you really sort of want to think about when you're doing floral arrangement, at some point you need to stop. You have to tell yourself, okay, this is enough. Don't put in anything else, because otherwise you can really drive yourself crazy. So I'm pretty much done. So this is really just a super simple little bouquet. It can be anything. You know, go out in your garden, go out in the woods, and just find what, you know. Use lots of foliage. I didn't add any. I found these are ferns, and they can be used for all kinds of stuff. They're awfully forgiving as well. So yeah, that's, and if you wanna, you can also, if you want to, no, we're going to save the creeping phlox for the other arrangement. And I think I might add another jute here. I hope I gave you enough of the jute here. It's always a little, there you go. Now, floral arrangements have, if you do an arrangement like this, you have to recognize that it will move. You know, flowers like to, they do their bendy thing, they twist a little, they try to move towards the sun. So when you have done a bouquet, you know, the next morning you look at it and say, you know, it's not looking quite the way I wanted, then you can just sort of froof it up. You know, it's almost like having waking up with bed hair, and then you just go like this, and then, you know, you fluff it up just a bit, and then you're like, okay, that's good. Always make sure that the water is clear and fresh. That will really keep the bouquet for a long time. So a bouquet like this will last you for maybe 4 or 5 days or so. I mean, it's not a hothouse bouquet, and it's, you know, these are really not necessarily meant as cut flowers, and they're not bred to be cut flowers. But that doesn't mean that they aren't pretty and don't make you very, very happy at home. Ooh, that looks great. Good job. Nice. One of the things that I like to have close by when I do florals is a garbage can, so that you can get rid of. It's almost sort of, you know what, you know, the French word for keeping a neat kitchen, mise en place. Same principle. All right. Okay, everybody having a good time? Good, I'm glad. Nice, Martha. I like what you did there. Okay, good job. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next little project if you're done. I mean, this was just a quickie, just, you know, a little basics of getting your plant ready. So what I want you to do is take your little flower pot and your little styrofoam. You are going to need a pair of scissors, because what I want to do is I want to put the styrofoam, because, you know, a flower pot has a hole at the end. So if you put water on that, that's not going to work. So I'm going to use this as the actual vase. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that it is not sticking up. So I'm just going to cut around. Plop it right in. So now you can see it's the same height as the flower pot. And then I'm going to show you one of the best tricks ever. In floral. And by the way, you know, Oasis, the floral foam, is really not good for the environment. It is fabulous stuff, but it is plastic, and it's very bad for the environment. So if you can avoid using using the floral foam, please do, because it's really not good for the environment. Some people like to curl up chicken wire and just use that to secure the flowers. I've tried that. I'm not very good at it. I obviously need to practice some. So now did you all cut your cups and put them inside? You're looking a little worried there, Heather. So you see what I did? I took the styrofoam cup and took a pair of scissors and cut around. You got it? You're muted, so I can't hear what you're saying. Okay, somebody's muted. What happened now? Oh, oops. That was my cousin from Denmark calling me. So you got your cups cut down so that they're the same height? Perfect. All right, then what you're going to do is you are going to take your floral tape, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make a grid across the top, and that will actually help secure the plants. So you should take one like this. Doesn't matter if it's a little too long. I'll show you what we'll do afterwards. And then you go like that. This has the added benefit that it actually also secures the little paper cup in the middle. And go like this. This is almost like making a lattice for an apple pie. Okay. So now you see what I got here? I got my little grid right there, and that will actually help secure our plant material. And then because it's unsightly to have these ends sticking out here, I take a good long piece of the floral tape. I hope I gave you enough. I think I did. I trust I did. And then what I want to do is I want to secure it by just going around the edge. This. This is wonderful stuff. You see how sticky it is? You wouldn't get ordinary tape to stick like that to a earthenware jar like this one. And then just cut it off. So you see now I made a nice band around. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these ends off. Just like that. Oops. Floral tape you can buy pretty much anywhere. I think they even have it at Walmart. But it is a very, very nice invention. But as you can tell, it's essentially very skinny duct tape. All right, now I'm going to go and put some water in my little cup here so that I'm ready for the next venture. All right, everybody got their little flower container ready. And the nice thing about this floral tape is that it's impervious to water. It's, you can get it wet, it will stick anyway, which is one of the reasons we really, really like it. So now what you want to think about is your color palette for your mini arrangement. I personally happen to really like very small arrangements because they can, they can go anywhere. They're really pretty, like by a bedside table. And the nice thing is that if you have somebody gave you, say, a bouquet for Mother's Day, and some of the plants are looking a little droopy, then you can start cutting them short and then make a short arrangement, and that way you will actually save some flowers. So there you go. So you can see these have to be much shorter than what we were doing before. And now you sort of have to decide what is going to be your color palette. I know that you have some of the phlox left. You should have some of the creeping phlox left. That could be pretty. hopefully you have some of the astilbes left. I think you each may have one of these guys. So this bouquet, actually, let me show you. This one was sort of more of a white theme bouquet with a little splashes of color here and there. But you can see what I did was I'm using a lot of foliage materials. There's actually not that many flowers in it. But still, because all of the foliage gives such, different kinds of texture and different kinds of color, it still feels like a really floral bouquet. And you may still, okay. Let's just get this one out. So I think I gave you each one of these. This is a Mogdenium, and that will actually do fabulous as a foundation piece in a bouquet like this. So one of the things you want to think about in a very short bouquet, a small bouquet, is you want to make sure that you have some nice foundation that sort of goes over here. So I'm going to take my Mogdenium and plop that right in here. So you see now I've already started with, I have some roundiness going on already. Then I am going to, here's the leaf I've saved from the bleeding heart. And you want to make them, they have to be fairly short, that you can't have them long because then they're going to stick out and look weird. So I'm going to put that right here. Okay, so now I have sort of two pretty foundation-y planty type things. And then because I would like a little bit more color, I'm going to take the purple guy, cut him all the way down, or her, whichever way comes first. And I'm using okay, I should show you this. I'm using the outside parts of the grid first, because that sort of creates a color around, as in color, that kind of color, not color. So now I have. So you want to make sure that it's nice and full and nice and rounded. I think I'm also going to take. I saved some of the astilbe because that was too short. Use that. And actually, I think I'm going to go like this and put some more astilbe in here. And I think I'm going to put a little more in here. There you go. And then I think I am going to start thinking, you may still have some of this variegated dogwood. That will actually be really pretty too. So as you can see, you know what, I'm really sort of going for texture. So there's sort of different shapes. There's the variegated leaf, the texture and color. So there's a variegated leaf right there. Then there's that really pretty shape of the bleeding heart. Then this one has that really nice deep maroon color. And then of course this guy is just absolutely stunning, pretty. And then you might want to start maybe adding some floral material if you want to make it a sort of a more colorful bouquet, or if you want to stay with the white theme, you can do that. I think I'm going to go for sort of a purple theme in this one. I am going to splurge and put my lamb's ear in because I think it's super pretty and I love it. And I'm going to place that right next to the purple so that there's a really nice contrast right there going on. And then I'm going to take some of my creeping phlox and start popping that in. So Sean down at the Bloomery does these. He's like, he can make one of these in like less than 5 minutes. It's amazing to watch him do this and totally inspirational. Just make sure that you actually end up putting the stems in the paper cup where the water is. Otherwise, you're going to have a very dead bouquet coming up very soon. I had a little bit of lilac left over, so I think I might actually splurge and put a lilac in to sort of stay with the purple theme if you have. And then again, make sure, move this right here. So make sure to cut the foliage off and then cut that slit up. Don't cut your fingers. It's a little tricky when the stems are this small. Now so here again, so this is what I did. I created a little slit right there. So I'm going to go back and plop my lilac in next to the fuzzy fellow. Like that, okay. And then I'm going to put a little bit more of this. So I can put that in right here. Okay. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but this has still got too long, too tall. So I'm going to cut it down just a little bit. When you make a tiny bouquet like this, you really want it to be sort of everything to be very, very close to the same length. It just makes for a more together look. And
Lotte, it's Laura.
yes.
I am sorry that I have to leave early, but I have to go pick the kids up from school, but I've used up all my flowers. They both look great.
Okay, I'm so glad to hear that. Well, thank you for coming and say hi to the girl.
All right, have a good day, everybody.
So, and then I'm thinking, so mine is I'm sort of getting to a point where I'm thinking, okay, this might be it, but I think I am going to use my my baptisia here because that sort of, it will not turn yellow on you before this bouquet is done, but then, you know, that sort of comes in here. Actually, no, this is just not behaving. I had a concept, but obviously it didn't have a concept. There we go. Ah, yes, much better. Okay, all righty. I think you had a little bit of the white creeping phlox if you haven't already used it. I'm thinking that mine is sort of a little bland looking because it's so purpley. And so I think I'm going to put a little bit of the white stuff in to create a little bit of contrast. Now, my grandmother liked to make bouquets that she called the forest floor. She sort of liked them to look like a, you know, if you go into a forest and see the floor of a forest, that they sort of come like that. I've always loved that image very much. All right, so you can see now we're sort of getting to something that's nice and tight looking. And it, you know, it could be very pretty much anywhere you want to put it. If you have more of like the fun, like some fun plant material that you haven't used, you know, I mean, I think you could easily pop in a few more of the astilbe leaves because I think they are awfully pretty. And create a nice contrast. And then, you know, don't forget that you sort of want to turn your bouquet around to see, okay, am I missing any spots? Is there any place that's looking like it's too bare? Have I forgotten anybody in all of this? And I don't think I have, as a matter of fact. I might. Oh, so this was the other heuchera that I was talking about. This is the there was that yellow heuchera, and then there was this one right here. You know, we didn't end up using the yellow heuchera, did we? All right, that'll be for some other time. No, this is not going to work. This is, now some plants are very, 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 very pretty in nature, but practically impossible to work with. For instance, what's it called? Dogwood. I love dogwood. I think they're the prettiest trees ever. But because of the way they grow with their flowers turning up like this. They are very, very difficult to arrange, which is very, very sad and very depressing. But there you go. That's just the way it is. All right. I think that's what I have on this one right here. How's everybody doing? Awfully quiet there. Doing okay? Okay, there you go. Oh, I think I may have given you some of this. This is actually a spirea. That's also a very handy plant for all kinds of flower arrangements where you want some contrasting color happening. All right, this was mine. I think I'm done with this one. So I hope you're inspired to go out in the woods and take a look and see what's there and have some fun and experiment, because it really, you don't have to spend a lot of money to have a pretty floral bouquet at all, ever. That's really my mantra. Don't spend too much money. Although I will say I do love going to Sean's and spending money there, but that's a whole nother kettle of fish. All right. So the last thing I just wanted to mention was, so I gave you these little funky little champagne flutes. I had them already, and I didn't have quite enough. In floral speak, these guys are called jewels. There's not precious stones, I can assure you. Don't put it in a ring or anything like that. But they are fabulous for weighing down. You know, sometimes if you want to have just a single flower, a champagne flute is actually a fabulous invention. However, they tend to get kind of tippy. And then that's what you do, is you put something in the bottom. I mean, you can go out and take pea gravel and then put something on top. And then I'm just going to go put some water in this one. So for instance, I have at home, I have a very, very, very pretty tree peony. They bloom earlier than the regular peonies. But because my peony is really quite old, it doesn't get that many blooms every year. So I really don't want to cut them all. So if you have something where you really don't want to cut your whole thing, you can just do sort of just do a single bloom. And I you know, this could be pretty much anything that you wanted to just do, just really super, super simple. You know, if you had a lilac that was left over and you just wanted to make sure that was displayed. I mean, I do think that there's something really lovely about just a single, very pretty bloom that you can enjoy. So that's just what I was, if you find that you have absolutely, you can't find any plant material and you're done, and then, you know, there's nothing wrong with a single flower in a tall, narrow glass, but you do need something tall and narrow for that, because otherwise it'll just flop. That's why champagne flutes are fabulous. I mean, they are just, you know, a godsend. Now, of course, I'm not doing single bloom now, but I do think that the bleeding heart lends itself to doing something fun, like, can you see this? There you go. This just keeps busy, 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 busy. So yeah. Now, one of the things when you do sort of say you have just three single blooms, you can actually, this is like one place where you really don't have to have them the same height. It's actually kind of prettier if they sort of have different heights. That sort of makes them a little more, gives them a little more play. Just saying, you know, if you have a really something very, very pretty out there and you really don't want to just cannibalize your entire garden, just do a single bloom or just three little blooms in a narrow glass. I mean, it's just a way to bring, I mean, I love having flowers in my house. I just think it is so nice and it makes me so happy. But as I said, you don't necessarily always want to go cannibalize everything that you have out there. So that's how you can bring flowers in and still make sure that you have something pretty at home. So anyway, that was my show and tell for today. I hope you had enough plant material that I hope I gave you enough. That always worries me more than anything. Do you have any questions? Yes. I don't think I have. Yeah, that's my story for today, and thank you so much. You have enough for 4 lovely visitors. Oh, that's lovely. That's very exciting. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. And really, it's my pleasure, and I hope to see you guys again. I think the next time I want to make a flower wreath to put on your hair. That will be our summer project. No? So enjoy. I'm gonna say goodbye right now. Have a great day. Enjoy the day, and thank you so much for coming. All right. Take care. Okay.